go out and tell the media, Marlon, or anything, but I'm struggling with that myself. And I knew right then and there that we were on to something, because if Strong Thurman's son felt that way, I think that others may have felt that way. So I started making calls to other people who we normally fight across the aisle. And the next call was to Larry Grooms. Larry Grooms was pretty adamant, this is the time to take the flag. You can't get any more conservative than Larry Grooms. And then I almost fell out of my chair when the senator from Pickens, Larry Martin, chairman of the judiciary, started talking about being receptive. And so here we go from a moment of tragedy that none of us could ever imagine, to putting forth a legislative agenda that included something that he always dreamt about, something that he wished for. So we were technically scheduled to be out of session. So the Senate is a very funny place. You can't just, you getting a bill passed in South Carolina is very, very difficult. The bill normally starts in a committee. First of all, you don't always get a bill filed, and you aren't always able to get it to a committee. But most bills go to a committee. And as I mentioned, Republicans dominate the House and the Senate, and they have done so for more than a decade. So if it's a bill that they don't like, what they do is set it. They don't set it for the committee. And they have the power, they got the votes, and they don't have to listen to Democrats. They do what they want to, they're in charge. So this bill was filed right as we were about to leave for break. And most senators, when we get out of there in June, we don't want to come back because most of us have to work. If you got a legislator that doesn't have another job, then you need to look at your legislator, because you can't earn a living based on what the Senate or the House pays you. I don't mind telling you, it's $10,400 for 6 months. So you don't take the job for pay. In fact, I donate all of my Senate compensation to charity. That's what my wife and I decided to do. We did that the first term. I'm not sure we're going to do that the second term, because it is taxing on the family, and I've lost. My firm is doing extremely well, but you lose money when you're not in your office for 6 months. So we're finding that we need to keep our money because we have family obligations. But the bottom line is, we were ready to go because we got to go to work. And if your legislator doesn't go to work, then he's either retired or extremely wealthy. But what does that say about public service? I mean, either the extremely wealthy or retired run the halls. That's why you have the age. People can't just take off 6 months for their job. So we got to make public service more attractive to people who want to serve. And you can't do that with the pay. So bottom line is, we, I don't know how I got all the money, but that's kind of funny, sidetracking the money. But we went back to, we were ready to go. In order to get a bill that's not been through the committee process, you have to have 3/5 vote of the body to put it on what they call special order. 3/5, 3/4 of the body voted to put this on special order, take it up immediately without committee consideration. That's huge. I knew we were on to something because the Republicans didn't have to do it. And of course, I should say, I will give credit to our governor. She provided leadership on the issue. And that helped a lot. That helped a lot. She doesn't have a vote, but she's the governor, and she, I think, made the right decision, and she was persuasive. So we had to amend our Senate calendar to get the legislative item on the agenda. And then because our schedule called for us to end session, we had to end session. Many people said, why don't you just vote on it and take it down? I mean, what's the, well, we have rules in the Senate. You can't just vote on something. And when a bill does get on the floor, it requires 3 readings. The first day is read across the desk. And the second reading is where you can amend the bill. So we skipped all that. We amended sine die. We came back in 2 weeks. And I think out of 46 senators, we had more than a supermajority. Because there was the Heritage Act that required 2/3 of us voting. We had well over 2/3. I think there were only 4 no votes. And we all gave speeches. I gave a speech. I took the generals of the Civil War. I took their words. Wade Hampton was one that I quoted. He gave a speech called Duty of the President. Now he is a general who fought and led troops in the war. And he said then that it was time to furl the flag. Multiple people in positions of leadership said, look, we lost the war. In order for us to come together as a nation, we got to put this stuff behind us. And it's interesting that people who have never seen military service, all of a sudden now, the leaders of the Sons of Confederacy. And some of their words contradict what is clear by the history books. So we passed the bill. In order to pass a bill and the bill to become law, it has to go to the House. And it had to pass over there by 2/3. And so it was debated in the House all night. You probably saw it on television. Anybody see it on television? Okay. Well, it went on. We only got 46 members. They got 124. But they debated this bill till 2 a.m. in the morning, and it was a circus. You had senators getting up trying to amend the bill to substitute the flag of, I'm just using this because I don't remember, substitute the flag of Hawaii on the flagpole, or put the state flag on the flagpole, or to have another Confederate flag, not the naval jack flag, but another Confederate flag, another version. And, I respect the debate. But when it gets silly, that's where I think, we waste taxpayers' money. Bottom line, it passes. So Nikki Haley, the governor, signs the bill the next day. I was scheduled to go to the Caribbean. I don't remember which island, but I was scheduled to go to the Caribbean. I'd already canceled a family vacation for Walter Scott shooting because I couldn't leave town with all that unrest in North Charleston. My wife and I were scheduled to go to Miami. Had to cancel that. And we were scheduled to go to the Caribbean. We had to cancel that. But I remember this day vividly. The governor, as soon as the bill passed the House, she called for a ceremony. And I wanted to be there because I was one of the floor leaders during the debate. And it wasn't a big debate on the Senate side because we had done all the work to count the votes before. So the bottom line, the flag comes down. Now what next? Well, nothing substantive that Senator Pinckney worked on has been done. We've got all of these elected officials coming in, making these statements. There was a prayer service not too long ago, I think last week, where everybody comes to pray. But there is a scripture, I think it's Isaiah, I'm not so certain about that. Biblical scholars in there. But basically the scripture says, faith without work is dead. Faith without deeds is dead. And so, from my perspective, people got to work to get things done. there's a lot of circus activity going on. People sort of laying flowers and talking the talk, but when you look at the substantive legislation, there's none. And so that's really where we are in this whole in the aftermath of the shooting. Of course, Mr. Roof has decided to represent himself, and so we'll see how that turns out. There's an old saying, "He who represents himself is a fool," or something to that effect. But no, has a fool for a client. He who represents himself has a fool for a client. But it's his constitutional right. You have a constitutional right, and if you're competent, no matter what, that's your right. So the judge can't. Many people are critical of the judge. The judge can't. If someone is competent, the judge can't all of a sudden deny you your right to go in and represent yourself. So that's where we are now. Nothing really has been done. I've been working on a lot of legislation. I unleashed a plan today. My firm was architect of one of the architects. Got to give credit to the other lawyers. The $15 billion Volkswagen settlement. I don't know if y'all have Volkswagen cars, but there's going to be a repair and replacement for those cars. Part of the emissions cheating scandal. And so part of that, we got $2.7 billion going to the states. South Carolina's part of that is $32 million. And I have a plan to fund the school buses that emit enormous levels of nitrogen oxide, in other words, pollution, to take the school buses and replace those school buses. Our children, I don't know if many of you have kids who go to public school or ride the bus, may not care, but a number of children ride horrible conditions to get to school. In Allendale, in the plaintiff school districts, Allendale County, Barnwell, Bamberg, where the governor's from, those kids get to school sometimes over an hour late, and they have to leave over an hour early.